How's it going, guys? Hyper here, bringing you the 715 Unholy Death Knight guide. I will be going over the new Clawing Shadows build and what it takes to make it work. As always, let's get started with the talents. First row, you will be going Bursting Swords. Second row, Pestilent Pustules. Third row, Clawing Shadows. You will be using these on AoE as well as single target boss fights. Fourth row, Sludge Belcher, just for that extra utility. Fifth row, you can go Lingering Apparition for that extra movement speed, or if there's some harder hitting AoE or spell damage, you can go into Spell Eater just to negate some of that with AMS. Now in the level 90 talents, we'll go Infected Claws, and in the last row you will be going Soul Reaper for single target, or up to 3 targets. If there is heavy AoE, such as Mythic Pluses, or a fight where it has constantly more than 3 targets, you will be going into Defile. Above 3 targets is where Defile pulls ahead. Under that, I would just go with Soul Reaper, especially in raids. You want to stick to this because it provides really nice single target damage. The second thing I wanted to go over is the stats. Now this is where the Clawing Shadows build is much different than the Castigator build. With Clawing Shadows, you want to stack as much mastery as possible, whereas with the Castigator in the previous patch, you wanted to stack as much crit as possible. So with this build, your main stat is always mastery. You want to get that as high as possible. There's no cap on it, just stack it as much as you can. This means going mastery enchants on your rings, mastery gems, unless you're low on haste, which I will talk about here in a second. So your crit, you want it to be around 17 or 18%. It is possible to go as low as 13% before it spikes in value, but I would definitely suggest around 17%. Haste, you want to be around 21%, so anywhere 20 to 23 is fine. I wouldn't go much higher or much lower because it doesn't benefit this build as much. Now you see my stats are a little off. It's because they're optimized for frost and I don't have a few pieces to make the spec work perfectly, but they're still pretty close. If I was to switch around some enchants, it would work out perfectly, but I'm not going to do that since I would have to switch every time I went back to frost. Now the next stat is versatility. Versatility is your lowest stat, and you will end up with some just because of how the stats work out in Nighthold. Now the next thing here is the Legendaries. The two best legendaries are definitely the Bracers and the Belt. The Bracers give you an extra chance to pop some of those festering wounds, and the Belt gives you some chance to refund runes when you're using Festering Strike. Other legendaries that you could go for is the Legendary Trinket, which just came out with a new patch, as well as the Legendary Shoulders. The other legendaries are slightly below, but they're still useful stat-wise. The next thing you need to know is what trinkets to go for. Every time you kill Gul'dan, you should use a bonus roll, because he drops a trinket called Draught of Souls, which is extremely overpowered for Unholy DKs right now, which might get nerfed in the future. The other really strong trinket is the Legendary. Obviously it's really high item level and it gives great stats with that added bonus of doing some AoE damage. Under that, you want to go for high stat sticks. This means Arcano Crystal, Ethereal Urn from Nightbane in Karazhan, as well as the Chains of Valorous from Odin and Trials of Valor. You're looking to get Mastery and Strength trinkets. After that, for single target, I would go for Memento from Maw of Souls, or Eye of Command, which also drops from Karazhan. Now under these, you can also go for Terrorbound Nexus, which drops from the Archway, which is a great AoE trinket. However, since the procs are so unreliable, it might fall behind on single target. The last thing you need to know before it comes to rotation is what relics to go for. Your strongest relic will buff the Darkest Crusade, which empowers the effect of your Fallen Crusader. Your second strongest will be the Deadliest Coil, which buffs your Death Coil damage, and since the buffs that came in recent patches, it's actually a really good relic to go for. Your third strongest relic will be Rotten Touch, which increases the damage of Festering Strike. Now after that, they're all about equal, but I would go for Plague Bearer, Eternal Agony, or Scourge of the Unbeliever. Now let's take a look at the rotation. So before you even pull the boss, you want to make sure you have a flask, a rune if you can afford it, and a mastery food active, and 2 prolonged power potions ready to go. At 8 seconds before the pull, you want to cast your Army of the Dead. Then at 1 second before the pull, you want to pre-pot and cast Dark Transformation. As soon as the boss is pulled, you want to summon your Gargoyle and cast Outbreak. From there, you just hit Festering Strike until you get 6 or above wounds on the boss. Then you cast Soul Reaper and Apocalypse to trigger the haste buff. From there, your rotation becomes very simple. You just build wounds with Festering Strikes and spend them with Clawing Shadows. Then just spend your free procs on Death Coil, and if you're a high runic power, without Scourge of Worlds on the boss, get a few in just to try and trigger it. If you have the Legendary Bracers, I would always stay above 4 wounds. If you don't, you can go as low as 1. Make sure you're always paying attention to your Dark Transformation and Outbreak on the boss, because you want to keep those up as much as possible. When Outbreak falls down, just recast it. When Dark Transformation comes off cooldown, just recast it. The next thing you need to pay attention to is Scourge of Worlds. When this procs on the boss, you want to use as many Clawing Shadows as you can, because it buffs its damage by quite a significant amount. Now for your second Soul Reaper, you want to make sure you have 4 runes ready when you pop it, because you don't want to be a victim of RNG and not get some extra Bracer procs. You want to be able to cast at least 3 Clawing Shadows to make sure you get 3 stacks of Soul Reaper haste buff. For every odd Soul Reaper, you will be able to use Apocalypse, which will automatically give you the 3 haste stacks. I would definitely recommend holding your second potion for your second Gargoyle, because it gives it so much extra stats and extra damage that it's definitely worth doing. Unless of course the fight is too short and you don't have time to pop a second Gargoyle, which does happen, especially on farm. This concludes my 715 Unholy DK guide. If you guys found this video useful, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more future content. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them in the section below and I will try to answer everyone as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a good one.